So you're new to Seint Makeup and you're having some issues. What I hear the most is you guys need to know, is it a color issue or is it an application issue? Was I matched completely wrong? Did I match myself from the online quiz completely wrong? Or am I not applying it in the best way to get the best results? If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm Sarah Martin with The Contoured Chemist. I personally matched myself to this makeup from a Pinterest post about 9 years ago and matched myself completely wrong. I have since become an artist and I have been studying, experimenting, troubleshooting with clients for the past 9 years on how to use this makeup and color matching people so that all of the issues we could talk about today are avoided before you get your makeup in the mail. I'm gonna be going over the top 5 issues I hear from Seint customers every day, and we're gonna talk about how to fix each one. So if you wanna check it out, please keep watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you see all of my troubleshooting videos to help you out with your makeup, and thanks for being here. If you've ever tried Seint, then you probably already know that this makeup isn't like all the other brands you might see at the drugstore, Sephora, Ulta, all the places. It is different. And I truly think that is why you need to know certain things about how it works, about how the colors work, about how best to apply it. So some of the issues I hear about on a daily basis, you don't ever have to come across, so that you apply your makeup and you love it the very first time. That is my goal. That is why I'm here today. Whether you've already tried it and you're like, ooh, I have issues, what am I doing wrong? Or you're being proactive and you've just heard about it and you're like, what is this makeup all about? I'm gonna go over the most common things as short and sweet as I can. I will be honest, there are a lot more than 5 that I could probably go over today. I have an entire playlist of tips and tricks that you can check out, but for the most part, there are multiple things that each of these issues could be attributed by. I won't lie. Everybody applies things differently. Everybody's version of light-handed, when I say be light-handed, that means something different to everyone, and it is really hard to translate that through a screen when we're talking about how much product to apply. So a lot of these things that I'm going to talk about do take a little bit more trial and error for some people, and some people will pick it up right away. I was one of those people. It took me a couple of weeks of trying this makeup, even knowing how to do it, and I have since learned a lot about do's and don'ts with this makeup and what I try to relay as well as I can to my clients so that you guys are set up for success. If you are unfamiliar with Seint Makeup, it is a cream-based 3D foundation system, meaning you can build your own compacts. You can have eyeshadows, highlights, contour, give you coverage like a traditional foundation would, but you're contouring at the same time. We have everything from cream illuminators, which will highlight the face, bronzers, dual purpose lip and cheeks, you name it. At this point, after 9 years, the brand has come a long way. We probably have it in some way, shape, or form. It is the most travel-friendly, easy, can apply it with one hand and a brush makeup I've ever come across. And so I am still teaching it 9 years later because it truly is the best makeup I've used ever and still is to this day. But you do need to know a few things about how it works because it's deceiving. And I find a lot of social media posts about it make it come across like it's the easiest thing in the world. And I'm not saying it isn't once you try it and learn it. But I will tell you, I was very tacky at the beginning. I was not using the right colors. It still looked better than what I was using before, so I was happy. But knowing what I know now, I was doing a lot of things wrong. So we're gonna just avoid all of that from the get-go. One thing to note, we have a lot of highlight shades. This is what's gonna give coverage. Think of it like a foundation, concealer, color corrector, all of those things. And so you will be matched to a combination of shades, and you should be. If you're given one shade, that's usually, in my opinion, a red flag, because as you can tell by looking at this chart, which I made to teach how to color match, there are not every undertone at every depth. This is varying depths of skin tone. These are different undertones, and there are a lot of holes in between. Not all of these shades color correct things in the same way, meaning if you have a very, I don't want to say difficult, but if you have a face like mine, I have a lot going on. I have blue, purple veins around my eyes. I've got darkness. I've got lightness. I've got broken capillaries around my nose, rosacea, hyperpigmentation, everything. I've got it all. Okay, so those things don't always get the same level of coverage. Those things will all affect how you're matched. And I find that if you ignore all of those things, you will always have to apply a lot of product. And I teach in a way so that you can get a very natural look or full coverage depending on the day, however you want to apply your makeup that day. I am never going to color match you to shades that you have to use every setting technique at a makeup artist's disposal, meaning setting sprays, a heavy loose powder, all of those things just to get it on your face and have it last through the day. That is not how everybody likes to do their makeup. And I want you to be able to do your makeup however you like and get the results you want. So if you're needing a color match, I will drop my color match questionnaire down below. I do ask a lot of questions because, again, makeup is a very personal preference thing, and how I like to wear my makeup, I like it to look like skin. If you want more of a full beat, you can totally get that too, but I want to make sure you're matched in a way where you're gonna be able to get that easily without getting pulled too dark or anything like that. So you fill out that form, tell me how you like to wear your makeup, and I will send you back a custom match. I don't match to collections. They are not going to work for everybody. I do all custom matches specifically for your face and your preferences. That's the only way I do things because I am very type A. Okay, so let's get into numero uno. The most common issue I hear all the time: I'm not getting enough coverage. And this kind of goes in with your makeup breaking up during the day. So if you've ever looked at your face, and especially it's usually around the nose, or on me personally, it's going to be anywhere you're usually darkest. And that includes deep redness. If you have rosacea, you might find it anywhere you have rosacea. It will start breaking up, like separating, and it almost looks like your makeup or your face is eating your makeup there. 9 times out of 10, when I'm rematching somebody who's tried the makeup and they're not getting the coverage they want, it's because they were matched without being asked what their concerns were, and they do have redness, dark spots, under eye depth, things like that that require a darker shade. So if you think of it logically, you try to use a lighter shade over a darker point on your face, what's going to happen? The makeup's not going to last there. It's not going to cover well, or you have to use a load of product to get it to cover there. And then that will lead to things like cakiness, which also we want to avoid. So for example, this is my all over shade. It is what is going to match my neck all when everything is said and done. I like to match my neck. Another question that I'm going to ask. But what I see a lot of artists doing is they will ignore any depth on the face. And if you say you want to match your neck, you're just going to get a color that will match your neck. But if you have darker areas like I do, guess what? This color breaks up and does not cover these areas well. And this shade in particular, this is my main shade, Sandy. It's neutral. So certain colors within our line are neutral, and those are not going to color correct well. They don't have the correct undertones to really work well over things like redness. And funny enough, these are the shades that artists color match to the most. Because why? A neutral is safe. A neutral is the safest, so somebody's not getting pulled too yellow or too warm, which tends to be what people are scared of. I'm here to tell you those are not things to be scared of. My number one recommendation for anyone getting a color match is if you need it and you do have any areas of concern on your face, you want to get matched to a shade that is going to be most likely a little bit darker than your all over tone. And this is because you need to match the depth of the darkest area of your face, or the makeup won't last there. It will start wearing off, it'll start breaking up, and it will not give good coverage with very little product. And that is one of the highlights of our highlights, is that they're super pigmented. You need very little product to get coverage if it's the right color. And so it's really hard to know what's the right color, especially when color matching yourself, because it's taken me years of studying these shades to know what will color correct what and at what depth. And I have to look at somebody's face. I can't tell you based on your descriptions. I have to see the level of the depth in your face. So for me, I go up 2 shades. We have a shade in between these two now. We didn't used to, so I've been using these two for years now once I finally discovered the magic of a color corrector, okay? So I'm gonna show you what it looks like when I use a corrector versus when I'm using a shade too light. So here is this side of my face, only just using a small amount of color corrector where needed versus nothing. People are always so scared that a corrector is going to be too dark, too orange, and everyone always thinks this is straight up orange when compared to a neutral, but it's magical. It allows me to apply so very little and get coverage, which is what we want. We want to use less makeup as we get older. Okay, so for comparison, this side has both my Mango color corrector and my Sandy as my main. So very small amount with this pressed on over it, and it evens out my skin tone. I'm still matching. I've got a lot of coverage, yet I don't feel the product on my face. And then on this side, I just went into Sandy. Now you might not be able to tell a whole big difference. I can, but it's because the longer I wear this makeup, the pickier I get. But the main concern is that within a few hours, all my dark spots are gonna start showing through. They're not going to stay covered at all. And this makeup's going to break up and give less coverage over those darkest areas of my face. So like I said before, 9 times out of 10 when I'm rematching people, they have shades that match their neck. All they need is a shade to match the darkest points of their face. You add in a color corrector, keep everything else the same, and it's amazing the difference they see after the first application. Their coverage is better, their longevity is better, and they are so happy with their makeup because they can apply much less product. So issue number 2 can also be related to color, but it is longevity. Your makeup does not last through the day. And we talked about things breaking up, but this also has to do with how you prep your skin for makeup. And it still blows my mind to this day how very little artists understand the concept. And I feel like I only learned this. It wasn't from Seint. I learned it through troubleshooting with my clients and figuring out what was not working. And it's one common denominator is that some people's skin cannot use any products underneath the makeup that are silicone based. So this makeup has to be able to adhere to the skin, right? Any makeup does. I don't know if you've ever heard, they say use silicone based primers with foundations with silicone in them and water-based with water-based foundations. This is not silicone, but it is not water-based either. It is an anhydrous cream, but it is very heavily leans on the petrolatum and wax base, meaning silicones, if you've ever felt them, here's a great example. This is a great sunscreen. I have them labeled, but if you find any clear chemical sunscreen, well, obviously mineral will never be clear, a clear sunscreen, and you feel that texture, like Supergoop Unseen, very popular. This one, very popular. The feeling it leaves on the skin, it feels like silk, like you're getting this like blurring base, which people love, right? Super blurred, completely clear, rubs in easily. It's 6, maybe 10 different kinds of silicones. Any clear sunscreen is silicone based. I promise you that. But I will say, more and more companies are coming out with silicone-free sunscreens. I keep adding to my list as I find new primers, moisturizers, and sunscreens. I feel like those are the 3 you really need to be concerned about, because it is the layer directly under your makeup that's going to make the biggest difference on whether that makeup adheres to your skin. And so something like this, I've heard that they just look in the mirror and within an hour their makeup's completely gone. And I find it's because it just like slips right off their face. If you feel this, I don't know how anything can stick to that. It's so soft and slippery. Silicones just have that slip to them, and you need to avoid it with this makeup. Now, I'm not going to say you can't have any silicones of any kind. There are some silicones. You mainly want to look out for the word dimethicone or anything that ends in the word cone. I find them to be the worst. There are a lot of silanes, which are also silicones. I'll put in what it's called here, that if it's got dimethicone on it, I put that. If it's got a silane, I put that. If it's got one silane in the middle of the ingredients list, this still works perfectly fine for me, for most people. I have had clients though, and this is all just through experience. I've had clients that can't have any silicones, or they find they have longevity issues. So my best bet is always just to go with completely silicone free. I have an entire list, I can link it down below, of products I've found that are 100% silicone free to use under the makeup. And like I said, I would say moisturizers, sunscreens, primers. I prime my face with my sunscreen. That is my primer. If I'm not wearing sunscreen that day, say I'm not, I don't know, there's no sunlight. It's about the only time I don't wear sunscreen, or it's already late at night or something, whatever, I will just put a silicone-free moisturizer on before my makeup to prep my skin. There are some really good silicone-free options that are hitting the market, and as I find them, I keep updating that list. So save it. I will have all of my recommendations there. If you look through that list and you're like, Sarah, I don't even know where to start, like, I recommend finding a sunscreen as your primer. You don't need a primer with this makeup. If you need a primer to grip and hold on to this makeup, you 100% revert to number 1. You have a color too light. If it's not staying on your skin, it is too light in color. And that moves me to the second reason why your makeup's not lasting. If it's not your makeup prep, it's your color's too light. And I also see this probably the second most, which kind of reverts to the first one. Most people just need a color corrector. Some people just have completely the wrong shades and they need an entirely new color match, but it's always because the color is too light in some way, shape, or form. Either they need a corrector and that's gonna match the darkest points of their face, or they need a corrector and a shade that's going to help them match because their color's completely wrong. If an artist is telling you you need a primer to keep the makeup on to give you better longevity, that is a red flag. There's no reason you need a primer with this makeup. I will get into that in a minute. It can help some circumstances, but it's not for longevity, I promise. This makeup, when I have the right combination of shades, has lasted me 18 hours beautifully. It doesn't budge, but I have normal skin, so your skin type can make a difference. So my suggestion, if you are trying to troubleshoot for yourself, and maybe you have an artist that's not very helpful, I would say try the makeup bare skin. Wash your face, let it dry. You can even use a hydrating mist, whatever, but use the makeup bare skin, see how it wears. That's gonna tell you if your colors are wrong. If it has nothing to do with what you're putting on under your makeup, then you can go ahead and eliminate that as a possible area for troubleshooting and as a possible reason for why your makeup's not lasting. If it's not your skin prep, then you know you need a new color match. I would say there might be one more circumstance where it might not last. And that can be just based on your conditions, how you are finishing your makeup, and if you touch your face a lot. I'll be honest, there's not any makeup in the world that's really completely budge proof. If you are sweating heavily and a lot of humidity and constantly wiping your face with a cooling towel or something like that, I find most people get transfer to whether it's their phone or their clothes or whatever when their color is too light. I can wear this makeup outside, and I do notice a difference in the summer because I live in Missouri and it is very humid. I might have more transfer than normal if I don't use any powder. During the winter, fall, spring, I don't powder anything but right underneath my eyes. I have normal skin. Oily skin, high humid climates, you might want to try powder or even a setting spray. That is always going to give longevity, but you also should be getting longevity without needing a heavy powder or a setting spray. Just your colors. If you touch your face a lot, just make note, because if you're always touching your chin or certain areas, usually it's around here around the jawline, or if it's around your mouth, that's normal wear and tear for any makeup. You can't expect to touch your face a lot with the oils on your fingers and not get something to move. And so you just have to make it a point that, okay, I'm going to set that area of my face. But for the most part, I don't touch my face during the day. I have no issues with longevity with my current shades. I'm going to skip the next one and I'm going to go into another one that is along those same lines, because this is an issue I had when I first started wearing the makeup. And it's because I was wearing a shade even lighter than this as my one and done all over color. And that was that it feels sticky or tacky. If you finish your makeup for the very first time and you feel your face and it feels like hydrated skin, you're good. If you feel like you touch it and a lot is coming off on your hands, more than likely you're just applying too much, which is perfectly normal for your first application. My first question would be, what tools did you use to apply it? Some of our brushes pick up more product than others. The buff brush, for example, which is this one with 2 slanted ends, I don't recommend for beginners. Even if you want full coverage, it is a full coverage brush. Why? Because this makeup takes a little bit of trial and error for you to figure out how to pick it up on the brush and lay it on the skin in the best way. And this one applies a lot of product, so much. Once you figure out how much product to apply, you can always upgrade to this brush if you want a little bit more coverage. But I would say first, the blush and bronzer. This brush will always and forever be one of my top brushes because you can buff it on, you can tap in and buff it on for a really natural day. Really light coverage, buffing is going to be your best friend. Now, if you have a color corrector like I do, sometimes you have to just buff on your color corrector where you need it, and then you go in with this brush and then you press. And pressing is what's going to build up that coverage, even out your canvas. Or if you have mature skin like me, it is the best for kind of getting in all those fine lines and wrinkles and giving you a nice even canvas without applying too much where we don't need it. Picking it up on the brush is one of the biggest things that I like to call out, because the number one brush people recommend is this 3D brush. It is my least favorite brush of all the brushes we have. Now, you'll notice it looks very similar to our Pilot brush, but this one, oh gosh, actually this is a Pilot brush. Just kidding. Anyway, where's my actual 3D brush? This one's actually my 3D brush. This is a Pilot. But Pilot right now is only available in black for customers. So this is the Pilot. It's identical. These black bristles are a little different, but for the most part, it's because you get 4 brushes in one. But I completely recommend applying differently when you have the Pilot brush that you can't do with this brush. And the reason why I don't like this brush is because people aren't just gonna go tap and just use the tip of the brush. What do? They go and they swipe into it, and they swipe it on the face, and they do this, and they get so much product. This is a dried out 10, that's why it's not applying as much, but they get so much on their face, and they complain that they're getting streaking, little coverage, all the things I hear all the time. And how you use the brush really does matter. And I always recommend this bouncing, tapping, stippling motion because this is a concentrated product and you can barely tap in, get a nice even distribution along the brush, and then just press it on and you can slowly build to the coverage you want without using your fingers, swiping it on, and then having to move that product across your whole face. That is the number one way to get too much product on your face. And then that product has nowhere to go. So you feel sticky, you feel tacky, you feel like in summer, especially when it's humid, it's melting off your face. Nobody likes that feeling. So if you're having transfer, if you're feeling like within a couple hours you're looking greasy, too much product. And the easiest way to fix that is stippling, using a brush that doesn't pick up as much product on the bristles, so a little bit softer, not so dense. And this is everything. If you've ever watched my channel, you will be like, Sarah, I know you love the Perfector. No, I did not use this for years, I will tell you, because I thought it was just an extra add-on and not necessary, because I thought it was like every other sponge on the market that people use to apply a liquid foundation. But in Seint world, we don't have liquids. It is the number one tool we have to remove excess. And you don't ever use it dry. This is it completely saturated and squeezed out to where I can't get another drop out of this if I tried my hardest, and that is what is considered prepped perfectly. So when I'm ready to use this, all I have to do is bounce it across my entire face, and really anywhere I tend to have it collect, which is smile lines and under eyes. It's the only thing you can possibly do to get rid of that tacky, sticky feeling, or if you're like, oh, I applied too much. You use this until you get off all of that excess. And this is also my favorite tool because this is how it looks like skin again. Right now, it doesn't look like skin, but it will when I'm done with this. So not using the Perfector, I am guilty of. I was, but now I don't recommend the makeup without it. I don't recommend my method of using color correction without it ever, because it is a game changer. And once you prep it and use it in the way I teach you guys, you will get it. I promise. You'll understand. And if you have issues with lines, creasing, which is the next one on my list, it's the only way to help rectify that as well. Okay, you've chosen the right brushes, you've used the Perfector. If you're still looking oily after that, this is the only time. I will tell you, it might be your skin type. And if you are very oily with this makeup, there's gonna be more of what I call an adjustment period to this makeup. So how I explain, this is a cream and it is largely petrolatum based, like I said. If you have always used a liquid or even worse, a powder foundation, and you switch to a cream, know that foundations like liquids and powders, know that they allow your skin to lose water throughout the entire day. So if you've ever worn a foundation and be like, why am I looking so dry and have these dry patches at the end of the day? That's because your skin has gone through transepidermal water loss. TEWL. You've probably heard it called. It's called TOOL. Okay, that is common. Your skin does it at all times, okay? It never stops. But what can stop that is an occlusive layer on your skin. This is why a lot of times at night we slug, we use more occlusive products like oils and Vaseline, things like that to hold water into the skin, and it helps so much with dehydration and dry skin and plumping up those fine lines as we look older. As we get older and those things become more apparent for us, that is what this does during the day. So I found my skin type helped regulate. I got more normal. My skin was glowier, more hydrated over time. But in the beginning, your skin doesn't know what to do with all this extra hydration. And it's not just losing water all day, it's holding all of that in. So you might find yourself a little glowier in the beginning, and your skin kind of has to regulate that out. And if you're oily, your skin also is going to have a little bit longer of that adjustment phase. What helped me was to use a setting spray and more of a loose powder. If you're oily, I would recommend both. And I would recommend only a loose powder. We do have a powder called Vanilla Dust. It is a very finely milled powder. This is the only thing I use under my eyes because it won't age me, but that is not a heavy enough powder to control or absorb excess oil through the day. Now, it's great to throw in your compact and use to touch up midday, but I would not use it as your only powder. You'd want to use one that really absorbs oil. So that's when you'd use something like Laura Mercier or Makeup by Mario, something a little bit more substantial. Now you'll find your skin will regulate, and then you might not need a loose powder anymore. You might be like mine, and I only powder with vanilla dust in the T-zone under my eyes and I'm good to go. But just know you might have an adjustment period. Everyone has at least a little bit of one, so just something to keep in mind. Now, for my people that come to me and say, no, Sarah, you don't understand, I am super oily, like can't control it. That's when I'd say you might benefit from a primer. Usually you can try those other things first. And if using a loose powder and a setting spray is not helping, go in with an oil blocking primer. My favorites are from Milk because they are, you guessed it, silicone free. So they have the Pore Eclipse line mattifying primer. They have a cream, and then they have this stick that you could just put on only where oily. Okay, so only where you need to block that oil production, and then go in with your makeup. It's not gonna affect the wear time, but it's gonna help give you a little bit more control. The other thing, since we're moving quickly into the hotter months, would be my girls that might have sweating issues. I know I sit at a lot of baseball games and now beach volleyball, so I'm sweaty. And some people just sweat more, okay? If that's affecting your makeup in any way, shape, or form, you can use this one. Now, they do have a primer from the same brand. I don't recommend that one. It's silicone based, but their sweat absorbing face lotion by Carpe. It does not have dimethicone, but it has silica, which is an absorbent material. Silica is okay. Silicone is slippery, okay? So this will help absorb that sweat before it disturbs your makeup. I'd recommend something like this as your lotion, okay? You can put that on. You can use it as a primer and put it on over your sunscreen, because I hope if you're outside sweating, you at least have your sunscreen on. And then the other thing is, if you just want a matte look, this makeup gives a very natural glow. It's one of my favorite things about this makeup because you don't have to set it and it looks like that, and it never feels sticky, heavy, or tacky. It just feels like skin, but it has that natural glow that makes you look youthful. Some people don't want it. They want all matte. That's when you want to pull out your loose powder. Powder your whole face. Easy peasy. Number 4, I'm going back one. We're going to talk about texture. And I think this is something that a lot of people want to pull out a primer for. They want to say, oh, what primer can really fix this? And here's the thing with any makeup. Not a whole lot of makeup can really fix your skin texture. You really got to be realistic about what makeup can actually do, all right? What skincare can do, what makeup prep can do, all of those things. And nothing's going to fill your pores to completely smooth them out. The only thing that helps pores look less noticeable is good skincare to keep them cleared out, okay? Because pores can't shrink. That is a myth. And then taking away that reflection, okay? So if pores are an issue, something like this that's even called Pore Eclipse, it might look better immediately, but then if you put on something over it, whether it's a foundation, a cream, anything, that then adds that glow back, your pores are going to go right back to where they were when they were looking hydrated with your skincare. The only thing that's going to take away that light reflection to where you can see that texture of the skin is to then go and blur it out with a powder. I'm gonna have to see if this product is even still on the market, because it's been a long time, because I don't use this because I love the glowy look. But without a powder, you could also just use a product that is pure silicone. Never apply this under the makeup. This is literally pure silicone, in case you've never seen it. This over the makeup. You can press this on. It will also blur the pores, okay? I'd recommend this if you're oily, this if you aren't oily but you just want to blur in certain areas. Now, if your pores or line texture, anything that you're trying to minimize is enhanced when you put on your foundation. That's different. So look at your face and be like, okay, is this making my texture worse? Sometimes makeup just makes it worse. With our makeup, the only thing that's gonna make it worse is the wrong color. So a color too light will always emphasize texture, fine lines, wrinkles, dry patches. If you put on the makeup and suddenly an area of your face looked okay and then it suddenly looked worse, that's a color issue, okay? So you just need a new color corrector. It's just a color issue and you need a new color match. So dry, flaky skin, it happens, especially in winter. That is also gonna be making sure you have the right color and prepping the skin. Hydration is key. And if you need an extra step, say you need a moisturizer and a sunscreen, and then by the time you let that settle and you go in with your makeup and you feel like you're gonna get dry patches again once the makeup gets on there because it's that dry, I'd recommend a product like the Bonjour Le Balm. This is completely silicone free and it's all your skincare in one. This is a very wax-based skincare system. So it's like your moisturizer, your serums, it's everything. Your balm, it's everything in one. And this gives the most beautiful base under Seint. So this would be a product that I'd say, just take a little bit of this and put it on the dry patch right before you go in with your makeup. Something about the consistency of this makes our creams sit so nicely on the skin. And I believe it's because the formulation is very similar. They have the same base and I'm obsessed with this product. It's so easy to travel with. It's just like your one and done. That's all your skincare. Obviously, I still use sunscreen over it. Next texture would be creasing. So if you don't know, our creams, these are not self-setting. And self-setting just means that after so many minutes, it will then set and it's not gonna budge. That means that water evaporates. These don't have water. So these are going to move with your face, which is a great thing because you'll never get that weird dry cracking that you can get with foundations that dry down. But that also means that they'll move with your face. So that means the lowest parts of your face, so mine's definitely my smile lines under my eyes. Let's see if I have creasing already. Yeah. So I haven't set this. You see that? It will go to the lowest part of your face, and that's just the nature of creams or any product that doesn't set. So the key, not over applying, because if you apply stripes on your face, a lot of makeup, and then you don't set it, you're definitely gonna get creasing. My method, I always apply the least amount of product possible to get the coverage I want, and then I go in with the perfector and I make sure I'm removing all those excess creams, and then I set it with vanilla dust. And I use vanilla dust because I can just touch once, control the amount, and it blurs and sets that in place. I know if I just dip one time and press that on, I will not get creasing under my eyes the entire day. And that's all I need to do my under eyes or my smile lines, all of those things. But perfector's key, not over applying, and making sure you do set any areas that are your trouble zones. And then last but not least, if it's not looking smooth, texture, where it's like it looks like a blending issue, that in my opinion is application. This side of this brush is one of, I think, the biggest issues for that, and that's because this is a very difficult brush to use. It's floppy, it lends to swiping, which lends to streaking, lends to not great coverage. I don't use this brush and I don't recommend it for beginners. The only thing I ever used this brush was I would tap in and I would just use it to press more coverage under my eyes because it does fit in that socket well. But again, this is dense, meaning that picks up a lot of product. My eyes are my biggest trouble area. I want the least amount of product there of anywhere on my face because that is never gonna stop moving. You blink all day, you're constantly moving your eyes. That lends to so many more issues. So technique, just use the other side of the brush. If you have this brush, you just use this. Press this side and it will solve so many of your issues. So my number one rule, swiper, no swiping. We don't swipe into the creams. We don't swipe on the face. We always tap into the creams and we tap on the face, or we buff. Buff for thinnest coverage possible. Tap, pressing motion till we build up as much coverage as we want. It's as simple as that. Number 5, I tried to do as much as I could related to the foundation, because I feel like getting a color match, using the right colors and applying that tends to be the hardest part of this makeup. But contour and blush are very much used, and bronzer. All of these things are more in the color categories. Yes, you also will be color matched to a contour. There are a lot at the same depth and a lot that aren't. I recommend contours based on your skin tone and also the concerns on your face. So you saw I had rosacea. I don't use contours that are too warm, because what happens if you have redness on your face and you apply a warm contour? It makes it more warm, okay? So if one of your issues is your contour looks orange, you just need a cooler contour. If you say your contour looks dirty or is patchy, most likely that means your contour is too cool. The cooler the contour, it tends to be, the harder it is to blend. So if you look and it just looks dirty on your face, you need to go warmer. And if it looks orange, you need to go cooler. If you put that in your color match and tell me which one you have, I can easily tell you which one to switch to. But the other thing is, I can't see it. And here's what I see the most. I see the most of, first of all, can you see how dry that is? Okay, these are cream products. They go in a palette that is not completely airtight. Over time, just like anything, it's gonna dry out, okay? Our contours are the driest formulation, and they're designed that way so that when you put them on the skin, they stay where they're put. You can go swimming and your contour will still be in place. They have great longevity. So when somebody asks me, why is my contour not showing up? It's gonna be one of these 3 things. Either you're applying it with your finger and you're like, I've got plenty on, I can see it. And then you're blending like this. It actually doesn't look too bad. Not great, but not too bad. Sometimes people just are scared because then they have a stripe on their face and then they just keep blending. Now my face is super red to the touch, so we're gonna come back to that in a second because you won't be able to see it as much once my face calms down. Or it's really dry in the 10 and you're doing this and you're like, I can't get it to show up. I can't get it to show up. This brush, I don't use this brush as often. I would highly recommend the Detail, but just for demonstration purpose, I will show you. I use this brush in the exact same way with the Detail. These are dry. You need to really pounce in to where I'm telling you the highlights. I'm like, okay guys, don't pick up too much product. You can tap in, you can see it sometimes depending on the color of your brush, and you can put it on and you're like, awesome. I can see I'm getting good coverage. If these are dry, melt them back down. Use your stovetop, use a candle warmer. You should be able to use every last drop of these creams. It's one of the best parts about it. You get literally every penny's worth when you're spending $16, okay? So melt it back down when it starts getting too dry, or just use your finger, the warmth of your finger before you use it, and then every once in a while, melt them back down. But the key is just picking it up on the brush. You got to be more gentle with the highlights, and once you learn, you got to be a little more aggressive with your contours. So I go in at an angle and I'm going to pounce that in with some pressure, and I know these are black bristles so they're hard to see, but that way when I press it to, I'm just going to lightly touch my face now and I'm going to be able to see that. And then I am not going to blend like that. If you color correct this side and then put on your main and then blend like that, guess what? All those dark spots, they're just gonna show right back up because you've moved all of your coverage. So for me and anyone with skin like me, you wanna do it in a way that you can just tap and then you can just press to blend, and you just kind of keep pressing, and you will always be able to see your contour, and then you can go back in with whatever you used for your highlight and really blur those edges or perfect to really make sure it's blended out the way you like. Rarely somebody's contour is not showing up because it's too light. Now, if you have been matched to walnut or aspen, yes, it's too light. I don't match anyone to those ever. Or shadow, which you're not supposed to be matched to because that one's designed only for noses. So this one is gonna be very hard to blend. Otherwise, you should have been matched based on your skin tone and your concerns. And if you have anything from olive, henna, ash, cedar, astoria, you're probably golden. If you have a little bit darker of a color and you're actually lighter, you can still use those. You just don't have to pounce in and apply quite as much. Now, some of those same things go for Bella, Xanadu, any of our bronzers. When you first get them, they're gonna be very creamy. Now, like this one is not new anymore. Oh, now it's too much. So it's gonna dry out. I actually prefer the bronzers once they dry out a little bit, so I'm not like getting this much on and then trying to blend it and it moving my coverage. Okay, so just know they're gonna be creamy at the beginning, so you can just kind of tap, tap, and then the drier they are, the more you'll be able to swirl your brush in, okay? Lip and cheeks will vary drastically from shade to shade. But if they're not showing up, then it's usually a shade too light for you. And there is quite a range of blush shades. So some shades might work perfectly under your cheeks and wash you out on the lips, or vice versa. But there's such a large variety, I would say get a shade you love. Get a shade you love that you can wear on both. If it's looking patchy, my question is, how are you applying it? I never recommend this method where then you go and you're, again, blending like this, okay? Because all of that coverage was just moved, all right? You want to be able to, again, control every part of your application, okay? That way you're not having to try to remove too much or anything like that. You're just simply touching your face, barely tapping and applying as you go. Now, if it's looking patchy and you're applying like this, most likely you're seeing dark spots through your foundation, and I would ask, are you using a corrector? Or what shade are you using? It's probably not enough to correct those things and give you a nice even look to your skin tone, and you're seeing things through it. Same thing goes with contour. If you're contouring like this and moving, I can always see all of those dark spots under it. Makes my contour look patchy, but it's not my contour that's patchy, it's my dark spots that are patchy, right? And when it comes to longevity of blushes, those also will vary. Our satins that are more matte formulations will always give a longer wear time on the cheeks, and some of our glosses are really pigmented, they last longer on the cheeks, and some are less pigmented and they don't. It's a trial and error thing. I like to say, if you're having longevity issues with the glowy blushes, like this is Desert Sunset, I love this shade. This lasts perfectly fine all day for me. But if somebody was having issues, I would put a similar shade that's a matte under it and then just put less of this over it. That way, the less you use, the less tacky you might feel from the glossiness of this lip and cheek, and you're gonna have that better wear time from those matte. But our blushes blend beautifully, so that is usually never an issue. It's just, are you seeing something underneath it? I know that is my biggest issue and why I apply a very specific sort of way. Okay, there you go, friends. I quickly finished up my look. I don't know if you can tell the difference between the two sides as far as coverage goes. But that was part 3 of my Seint Basics series, all about troubleshooting. Hopefully going over each problem and solution helped you guys in some way. If not, and you're needing a more one-on-one troubleshooting approach, just hit me up down in the comments, or usually the first step is making sure you have the right colors. So my color match request is down in the drop box below the video, as well as the pinned comment. I'd be happy to help you out. I want you to love your makeup. And as always, thank you guys so much for being here and watching. I'll see you next week. Love you. Bye.